Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel today. We're going to talk today about what society thinks if you're just a mom. And I really want to tackle this because I think a lot of moms are maybe running around like chickens with their heads cut off. I think a lot of moms are trying to juggle 1 million balls in the air to make sure that they cover all the bases of like being a good mom, being a career winner, being creative, still being smart, bringing in money, still being sexy, still being beautiful, like chasing a lot of things. And I think it's just exhausting. And I think that a lot of the things that we think we need to do we probably don't. And it's stopping us from enjoying the best parts of life, which is being a mother. It's kind of stopping us from fully embracing that because in the back of our mind, we're like, we have to do one other million things to make sure we are a whole person. And I just want to dive into it because I think as Americans, we don't even see that it is happening. We, and I know because I did not see it was happening for years. And my husband kind of had to point it out to me. And he, I think, because he's from Italy and has a different perspective and they value mothers in a different way, he didn't understand how I wasn't happy, not happy, but like satisfied just being a mom. Like he just didn't get it. And now that's kind of how I am talking to you guys. I'm like, I just don't see how people can't see that being a mom is enough. But it took me 6 years to learn it. So it does take time because our society is a hustle society. We care a lot about things like looks and money and business, and you mix in feminism that's kind of pushing that, and you get people like myself that's 38 years old who has literally never known anything but be a boss babe, provide for yourself. If you had a bunch of businesses and were making tons of money and had Gucci bags and all of this stuff and were riding like a G-Wagon, everybody would look up to you. Everybody would be like, she has it together. Wow, that's so great. I wish I could be her. um, that's what society wants you to think. So just and that's not realistic. That's not necessarily good. I'm not saying any of those things are bad, but if that's like the foundation of what we're all striving for, that isn't good. And so I just want to like slowly talk about these things so that maybe you guys can walk around in the world. One, hopefully it makes life easier because you start noticing these things, but also you just start noticing what society is telling us that doesn't really make sense, okay? So the thing is that in our society in America, no one really thinks that being just a mom is enough. I mean, you get some of those people, like maybe the Mormons, if you watch the Mormon Housewives show, you get some of these people, but I think most of the 325 or 50 million people in America wouldn't think that being a mom is just enough. And a lot of like a lot of moms think that. A lot of my mom friends think that, that you need to be checking off like 10 different boxes to make sure that you're a whole person. There's somehow this idea that we're like lacking. And I've believed this my entire life. It's just like recently that I'm like, this is not true. The idea is that we need to be marking off all of these boxes, and the more boxes we mark off, whether that's like that she has small businesses, or she is like super into this, or she usually it's something having to do with looks, things, and money, businesses. If they are doing those things, then they're successful. But I've also had friends that tell you, so that you're not just a mom, you need to fill this creativity bucket, and you need to fill this, I don't know, she named like 9 things you need to fill to be a well-rounded person. So you're not just a businesswoman and you're not just a woman. I've talked about this before, and I can do another video on this, but my husband, who's from Italy, he thinks this is like quintessential American. He doesn't think that Italians or other cultures really think about this, that we have to have like a firm identity that we can like put a flag in. Otherwise, we feel like we're flailing. And he's like, why do you guys need to have 9 things that you have to check off to make sure you're a whole person? He's like, you just are a whole person. Like, you just are. And I don't know, the older that I get and the more I look at it from this perspective, I'm like, we are just whole people. When you become a mom, you don't lose everything else that you have. It's not like you become a mom and you're all of a sudden not interested in anything but diapers. That doesn't happen. And as a matter of fact, when I became a mom and became a stay at home mom and I had much more time because I was no longer working, I became interested in much more. I was able to kind of like go down paths and like dig into things that I was really interested in just because I had more time because I wasn't like working and exhausted all the time. Um, so by no means do you become just a mom and then lose yourself unless you have a checklist of all the things you do so that you can like be well rounded. That's just a myth. That's just not true. And I think would so many women that are trying to help would disagree with me. They'd be like, no, that's not true. You need to maintain your creativity and blah, blah, blah. And what I'm saying is that you can maintain your creativity, but it doesn't have to be something from like a self-help motivational book. It doesn't have to be something that you can show on Instagram, and there's going to be periods like the newborn stage where there is not time for anything. And that also has to be okay. It's not that you lost yourself in the newborn phase. No, it's like you have a newborn. And so for those moments, you have to do it. The same goes that's just like how life is. You didn't lose yourself. But moving forward, I think that everybody, the women out there that are trying to help you so you feel good. And, so many of the women that follow me, I see the comments, they say like, oh, I lost myself, I blah, blah, blah. And even I thought I lost myself during a period of time. But the problem is it's because every single person around me and society and social media and TV is portraying what a life should look like, which is basically like busy as F, doing a million things, checking a million boxes. And because my life looked like me stuck inside a house with a baby crying and maybe vomit on my shirt, I felt like I was missing out. I felt like I was lacking. I felt like I did lose myself because everything I saw didn't look like what I was experiencing. Okay. If everything I saw looked like what I was experiencing, which is how it has been for many years because communities were much tighter and families were much closer knit. So you saw babies being born, your friends had babies, not to mention like people just aren't having babies anymore. So, so if the tables were slightly turned and you saw all of your mom friends, like probably all those Mormon moms, everybody around them is, going through the same thing. They have vomit on their shirt at some time. They have these things. And it makes it easier and it makes you not depressed because you don't think you're the only one having a baby with vomit on your shirt. You're like, no, this is what everybody goes through. So all I'm saying is the noise from outside, and that includes social media, that includes TV, that includes your friends, that includes everybody, just because families and kids and all of this stuff is just so much, it's not a part of mainstream society. We have been convinced that we need something else to feel whole. So what I'm saying is, there's postpartum depression and there's all of that stuff, which I think is like a very in-depth subject. I think it probably has to do with mineral deficiencies and vitamin deficiencies and isolation and all sorts of things. I think it's very real. And doing things like being around people and stuff like that will help it. So I'm not saying that isn't like a thing because I had it. I know that it's real. But what I'm saying is a lot of this stuff is self-inflicted. Like somehow we have decided that we are lacking in things. And so then we're like, yeah, I need to get out and do this. And all I'm asking you guys to do is take a step back and be like, do I really need that? Like, is that really what I need? Or is it that society and Instagram told me I needed that? And so I'm doing that. You know what I mean? That's just kind of because I think that so many women find themselves with a baby or kids or whatever the stage is. And then they're like, well, I can't just sit around and be with my kid all day. I gotta go do something. I gotta, to prove themselves. And I think that's an important distinction, right? Because if you're doing something to just prove that you're not just a mom, or doing something to just survive, you got to reevaluate why you're choosing those things. And do you really need those things? And would it be better if you just surrendered, to your new life as a mom and then once you have time and things show themselves, then you can say like, you know what? No, I do feel a lot better, when I started this blog and I can write. I can't do it all the time, but it does make me feel a lot better. Instead of feeling like you're inadequate, because you're just not inadequate. And that's kind of what society tells you without saying it. They don't say you're inadequate, but they'll constantly tell you you have to do other stuff. And I've just learned that the biggest thing us humans actually need is other humans. So, you need to be with other humans. You don't necessarily need to start a blog. You don't need to start a business. You don't need to have 1 gazillion hobbies. You don't need to show that you're smart and sexy still on Instagram. Those things you don't need. What you do need is people, good relationships. And I think that constant pull, social media doesn't help this, of moms just feeling like they need to do other things, prevents them from just falling into motherhood. And once you surrender to motherhood, and I want to make another video on this, but you sort of accept that your life is different. Your life is not going to look how it looked when pre-kids. It's just not. But that's not a loss. There's a lot of gains in becoming a motherhood. To me, it's the greatest gain you could get in life, because you become so much wiser, so much less selfish, et cetera, et cetera. But one thing you don't become is inadequate at all. You don't become inadequate. Even if you feel like, oh, I feel awkward because I'm brain dead. So when I go talk in public, I, go to a party and I sound like a weirdo because I haven't, been networking as much or what. That's okay. That is like normal. You are dealing with one of the most challenging and demanding periods in life. If you can't, have small talk at the drop of a dime, that's fine. Like, we need to start looking at the beauty in motherhood, because it is really beauty. I'm not blowing smoke up anybody's ass. Because the fact that we think businesses and G-Wagons or blogs or whatever it is that you're thinking you need to be whole is going to do that. It's just the people are really really what matters. The other thing I want to say is that, and again, I am an American in this completely. Most of what I talk about, if not all of what I talk about, I know because I felt it firsthand and I came to some change in thought or an awestruck moment or something. But so anytime I say, it's not like I'm talking about you or Americans, I'm talking about also me. But one thing I've noticed that, with the kind of things like, we don't want women to lose themselves in becoming a mom or being just a mom. A lot of times that has to do with career. If the woman's like rich and has like nice things and Gucci bags and stuff, she doesn't need to have a career, because we're like, oh, she has nice things. That's good. All of these things are usually rooted in some maybe greed. Like, we have to really dig down deep. I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of the decisions we make as Americans is like what people think of us, which is not a good, oh, my light just went out. It's not a good thing to do. Like, what people think of us is not something to base our life off of. So social media is a big one of that, but also money. It's like, and I battle with this all the time. I literally battle with this all the time. I know so many Americans battle with this all the time. It's like, you want to be able to provide for your family. You want to, when you're gone, that your kids have something provided for them, so life's not hard for them. You want to be able to do nice things. Like, you want to be able to go to the grocery store, maybe buy good food, or go on a vacation every once in a while. Like, you don't want to be strapped. So having money is good. But I think now a lot of Americans are like, yeah, I want a helicopter. I want like, maybe not a helicopter, but also, yes, like, how many people want to become billionaires and millionaires? Like, that is their goal. I think when I was a kid, no one thought that. Everybody was kind of just happy with having what they have. And when I think about that, being happy with just enough money to live a good life is like what we should be wanting. This constant wanting of more and more money, I don't think comes from a good place, And then the other thing is, a lot of these things that, we're chasing as moms, whether it's like, I got to stay creative. This is one that I struggle with. I'm like, I gotta stay creative. I was trying to write a book for a while, and I was like pounding this book, and it was getting to a point where it was like kind of making me miserable. And during that period of like me doing all these things, like working out, like trying to work out, which I always recommend working out, but just trying to fit in all the stuff, I also had a miscarriage. And I was just like in my mind, um, that I have no idea why I had a miscarriage. You never really know those things. Probably it was just not meant to be. But there is this thing of like, I'm putting out so much energy instead of just focusing on my health and my family, which is literally all I really care about. So it allowed me to just like instantly I kind of prayed on this, and God just showed me to like put the book down. You don't need to write a book. You don't need to write a book. Like, and maybe I will, maybe the time will come, but like a lot of people I was talking to was like, you should definitely write the book. And I was just like, I need to write this book. I need to write this book. And and I'm like, yeah, but if it's like killing me because I'm also a full-time mom and I'm homeschooling and I, do care about my health and my husband travels and blah, 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 blah. Like maybe I don't need to write a book at this moment. Like that's okay. I don't know. It felt really good to let those things go. So my point is that some of the things society tells us we need are based in greed, or they're not morally sound. They're not things that we should base our lives on, that we should frantically freak out like, I need to have money so that I can be as successful. Also, what people think of us, especially on social media, I cannot tell you how good it feels when you get off Instagram, like personal Instagram, and stop showing people your life. It feels so good to relieve yourself of literally no one needs to see your life. You don't need to prove anything. You don't care what anybody else is doing. Like, it's a beautiful thing. So many people, I think, are driven by proving their lives on social media. Like, look what I'm doing. And this is like, that is just toxic. It's not a good place. So if any ounce of you is like, I don't want people to think I'm just a mom, I want them to know that I've da da da, then that's clearly not a good thing, because you shouldn't care what people think. And then the last thing is this just unwanted energy? Like, or unnecessary energy? Am I just putting out unnecessary energy? Because when you're a mom, regardless if you're a working mom or a stay-at-home mom, in both situations, you are already operating at like max capacity. So you do actually have to be careful of what energy you are putting out and for what purpose. So if you're hustling, I mean, it's a different story if you literally can't survive and you need to put money on the table for your kids. That's one thing. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a lot of women out there thinking they need to not just be moms and need to do something else. And they're putting a ton of energy that should probably just be going towards rest and their kids. Like that's probably where it should be going. But instead it's going to, like in my case, like I got to write this book. Like when I should just be going for a walk around my neighborhood, or when I should just be like, hey, I'm just going to sit down on the couch, or when I should just be like making a bracelet with my daughter. Instead, I'm like, I need an hour and a half to write this book. I could tell it was a pain in the ass, but I thought I was being diligent. I thought I was being disciplined, all positive things that we talk about in our culture. And I just think that a lot of it's BS. You know what I mean? I honestly think meaningful relationships, you don't need anything if you have meaningful relationships. I really believe that. I think that anything. I mean, I really put like meaningful relationships over education, being smart, having any sort of goals. Like, and I'm a goal-oriented person. I love reading. I love being educated, et cetera, et cetera. But if you have some solid relationships, I just think those are always the human soul is meant to spend quality time with people, and luckily we don't have to choose one or the other. But I think in our society, we're totally unbalanced with, not spending time with family and friends and all about like accomplishing stuff. And it's driving moms crazy. Once you surrender to motherhood and say, I don't need anything else to be whole. I am a whole person. I don't need anything else to be whole. I am a whole person. God made me a whole person. Now I'm a mother. I'm an even more well-rounded person. I don't need anything. And you just sit in motherhood, let it surround you, enjoy it, because it's such an incredible thing. Even the stuff that's tough, you're like, it's tough. Like, just admit it. It's tough. It's hard. This part is hard. I swear at that moment is when you're going to become more peaceful. Parenting is going to become more fun. And you will then be able to add things into your life. But you'll be able to add it into your life. And it's like meant to be there. It's not forced. You know what I mean? So it'll show itself that maybe you have very limited time. I'm someone that I have very limited time. Like right now is like only 3 hours in the entire 7 days of a week that I don't have my kids. If I was very tired right now, I would be on the couch watching TV because that's just where I'm at now. I need to nurture myself. It's not about proving, but I had energy to do this. I care about this topic. I care about moms. I like doing this. So for me, it is kind of like, it makes sense. But I'm not writing that book. I'm not doing a CrossFit class that I felt I needed to do. I'm not doing a lot of stuff. I'm not like I'm just doing what flowed naturally into my life. And I think so if you want to read more about that, I put that on my Substack. I did a little blog. I think it's kind of like my thoughts are a little more put together if you're interested in reading that. And then the other thing I want to say is that when you're listening to what society says, I'm not talking like your husband or your spouse or like your best friend ever in your life, because those people usually are really looking out for your best interest. But if you're just looking at society and saying like, thinking you need anything society is telling you that you need, I always say this in my mind, that the scoreboard doesn't lie. The scoreboard does not lie. So to me, society is the scoreboard. And to me, the society is not winning right now. There's a lot of sad people. There's a lot of depressed people, a lot of people that are medicated, a lot of people that are not healthy physically or mentally, a lot of people that you wouldn't want to be. You don't want to be those people. And this is the society that's telling you what you need to do, you know? So I always say, I'm like, I look at everybody that's like hustling and that's, trying to do all of the things, juggling all the balls. And I'm like, you guys are stressed out and you're stressed out. I don't want to be that person. I want to be, I want to be healthy. I want to be calm. I want to be soft. I want to be, physically and mentally aware and positive and peaceful. I want to do all of these things. And usually when I listen to what society tells me, it basically, destroys me. So let me know if you have any questions. Please subscribe if you like to hear this type of content. This is a lot about women and moms, but I do we'll talk about all sorts of cultural stuff and topics and, maybe things that are even going on in the news or whatnot. So hit that subscribe button. It would really mean a lot to me. Comment below. Let me know what else you would like to talk about. And thanks again. Have a great day, guys.